So this video is going to talk something a little bit about how people actually find your website. And this is where we start to launch off into lots of different areas with the web and really anything digital that you can be thinking about. And what it's considered is called metadata. And you've heard that term in lots of different settings. But in this context, what we want to think about is how search is finding our website, in particular Google. And you've used it obviously, but when you search for this, we have this kind of search results page. We have something that's the title of the page and then the URL, and then this little snippet of a description is what it's called, right? And we see that. Now, we can control what that is, and that helps Google index our site or optimizes it for search. Right? So SEO stands for search engine optimization. You can get into this as much as you want, but we're just going to do the bare bones basic so you can at least write one meta tag that has to do with search in your HTML. Now, I mentioned that this is called a title, this is called a description, and the third thing that Google really likes is content. And that sounds kind of like a no-brainer. But what we mean by content is in our HTML, we want to have HTML markup, right? Hypertext markup language. We want our HTML marked up in a way that provides a structure and a hierarchy of our information, preferably in text form, right? So if we look at our code here, we can see we have an H1. So we're saying the top level heading of this page is our name. Right? So that puts emphasis compared to work. Work is just a link inside of an unordered list, right? So H1 is higher than an unordered list item. Then we have H2, so we have about me, career goals, this semester, and hobbies. And then everything else underneath, we have paragraphs, we have unordered lists, and all that kind of stuff. And then we have a footer with some paragraph and images and all that, right? So what Google does when it indexes it, it tries to put more emphasis, generally speaking, on the tags that you're labeling content with. So if we were Google, we'd say like, oh, okay, Adam Wagler, this page tells me about me, his career goals, what he's doing this semester, and his hobbies, right? And then it goes further down. Then he's got like degrees and all that kind of stuff. So it's not reading it verbatim. It's just kind of putting pieces together. And essentially what we want to have happen is we want the title to work with our description that we're going to add in a sec that works with our content, right? And the content meaning everything in the body. So those three things, title, description, and content, are the very bottom of what you want to actually do. It's the first thing you actually do. It's the foundation of what SEO actually is. So there's lots more that you can do with that, but that's where we should start with it. Pretty much every web page. Okay, so the content's pretty much, self-explanatory. You want to have content, you want to have good content. Where it gets into, the art of it, and you can have a career in just SEO, but is picking out the keywords. So if everybody in a certain industry calls it a cog and other people call it a gear, then we want to actually probably use gear because cog is just what we use internally, and everybody that's actually searching for is using gear, right? So it can go down a rabbit hole there, but the gist of what we want to do first, though, we have the title, we have the content, we need to add the description. So I'm just going to paste it in here, but this is the description. So this line 6 right here is the description. You notice that we put a meta tag in there for the viewport when we did responsive design. Now we're doing the meta tag, and its name is description, and the content of the description right here is 140 characters that describes the page this is on. Okay, so this takes a little bit of thinking about what you're going to say, but usually you want to think about like what the title says and what the content says, and then those keywords that you kind of want to emphasize a little bit inside of your content, those two sentences. So this is where copywriting becomes huge for the web, is doing SEO, right? So I'll let you kind of write out those, but you want to have one or two good sentences. Like I said, about 140 characters, so it's the size of an old tweet is the way to remember that. But so we want to do that with every page, so we'd want to do that on our work page as well. All right, so we're going to add that. Oh, I'm going to add it at the same spot so you can find it. All right, so we add those meta tags to both of the pages, and that's just about all we have to do. So we're going to be looking for those. You'll need to do that for this particular project. Now, the couple things that you need to know about search then, and a couple things that you can kind of do extra on top if you really kind of get into this. The thing to keep in mind is there are kind of two forks in the there's a fork in the road in terms of how to think of search or SEO. There's organic, and that's what we're doing. We're just like doing the free stuff. And there's paid. So you can pay money to get to the top, right? So you can pay to have your keywords show up. I'm not going to talk about that, but if you're in advertising, there's media planning classes that talk about paid media and media buying classes and that sort of stuff that really get into that a lot more. But at the very least, we're going to do a little bit of the organic search optimization for this project. And that is with the title and then the description and then the content itself. Okay. The last thing I'll mention, and this is totally optional, but I think it's relevant, and I think this is where you see it a lot. It'll try to do it by itself, and you've seen this happen on Facebook or Twitter or something like that, where somebody posts a link and then the image pops up and it looks all cropped and weird and it's got like a sentence that doesn't make sense. You can control that, and I'm not going to really walk through this, but it's called Open Graph. And it goes inside the head just like your description you just made, and it uses these OG tags here. So just Google Open Graph SEO and you'll get like how to actually do this, but it's the same kind of thing. We have a title, we have the site name, and then a description that we're going to type out, and then we can actually have an image that's scaled for either Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is that you're working with. And when you get into larger sites, that becomes more and more important. You know, you want to have it look good on all these different kind of platforms, because things that Google cares about in terms of search rank is obviously having the meta tags and everything. But if it's getting shared on social, if it's optimized for social, if it's optimized for the mobile, so being responsive, page speed, so optimizing those images that we did earlier as well. All of that and a lot of other stuff affect page rank. And it's not an exact science, but it's something that people have figured out. Google doesn't publish like all of the things that it wants to do to make your site better, but things that you can do are the real basics here, is what we've talked about. So like I said, you can really get into this, but it's something that I think is important to at least kind of touch on here, because we want people to find the things that we're developing online, right? And the easiest way to do that is to start optimizing it for search.